Hello, and welcome to Visa Spotlight. I'm your host, David Rolfe, head of Visa Ventures. Visa Spotlight is our online event series where innovation takes center stage and you get to hear directly from product leaders and industry experts about the groundbreaking solutions reshaping the payments landscape. The payments ecosystem is rapidly evolving. While modalities like account-to-account or A2A payments and stablecoins are gaining traction, traditional rails, wires, checks, and even cash still move trillions of dollars every day. As payments and technology evolve, so do the risks. The same payment rails that enable legitimate commerce can also be used by fraudsters. That's why Visa is committed to making every payment secure and seamless across all rails, endpoints, and stages of the payment lifecycle. We've invested over $12 billion in cybersecurity and fraud prevention just in the past 5 years. A major milestone was our recent acquisition of Featurespace, which is now part of Visa's risk and identity family. In this session, we'll dive into the rise of A2A payments and the scams that target them. You'll learn how Visa A2A protection solution combines the best of Visa and Featurespace scam fighting capabilities to help stop these hard-to-spot threats. To kick things off, I'm joined by Hector Rodriguez, Senior Vice President of Global Bank and Issuing Risk Solutions at Visa. Welcome, Hector. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks, David. It's great being here.
So let's start with the big picture. A2A payments are growing rapidly. What does this growth look like globally?
Yeah, so it's been a huge growth over the last 10 years. Around the world, governments and providers are really scaling digital payments to help drive economic growth. In many of these markets, just the beginning. A2A payments are projected to grow by $103 trillion over the next 5 years. That's reaching $195 trillion by 2030. That is just massive growth. There's over 70 countries around the world that have real-time payment systems or A2A networks. And again, the two big ones that everybody kind of knows and follows around the world are Brazil and India. We're seeing some great momentum in Europe and Thailand, some good momentum in parts of Africa and other parts of Asia and Latin America. And then there's markets like the US, UAE, and Canada that we're expecting to see some acceleration over the next couple of years.
Interesting. It's truly remarkable to see that kind of dramatic shift to digital payments in some of these markets. I can also imagine that with that speed and convenience and rapid growth, there's also some risks involved. So let's talk about scams specifically. Why are these scams so difficult to detect and to prevent?
Scams, or in the payments world, we call it authorized push payment fraud, APP fraud. It's unique because really it's the victim that is actually initiating the transaction and sending the funds from their own devices to the fraudster's account. It's very difficult to identify from a kind of financial transaction, a typical transaction from let's call card, is that, again, an issuer at that stage in the card world would have an understanding of the profile of their cardholder and their purchases. And then they have enough information in regards to the merchant, the type of transaction, the MCC, is this gambling, is this, grocery store transaction, the dollar amount. Right. And they can kind of get enough information for red flags. In the account space, when I'm sending funds from my bank account to another bank account that's yours, my bank doesn't have visibility and understanding of the behavior of your account. And so those traditional red flags are just not there.
I imagine that same speed also makes it very difficult to recover fraudulent funds.
It really does. Scammers, move the funds quickly. They'll move them from different accounts. They layer them from different FIs within minutes. And so it makes it very difficult to kind of, trace, to recover these type of transactions. Another thing that's important when you look at that is that in the A2A space, most networks around the world do not have consumer protection or dispute mechanisms. So it's not like the traditional card world where, we've instituted great protections for consumers, chargeback processes. And so these are some of the things that impact these type of transactions. And the last one is because the victim, it is a very deep personal type of scam. And many of these scams, again, they're impersonation scams, romance scams. They're very personal. they are afraid to, or embarrassed many times, to kind of just, let their bank know that, they've been fallen victim to a scam or to a fraud.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think most of us have either experienced a scam firsthand or know someone well who has. What else makes these scams effective?
Today's scammers are really professional, tech savvy. This is not your traditional kind of like, teenager in the garage. It's because they're really masters of manipulation. They're really creating using that social engineering to create urgency, manufacture that intimacy and really that connection. And, and it's probably, very deeply personal, especially when you look at the romance scams. These are people that are like really breaking down barriers to create that connection to be able to start pulling funds and getting funds over. And, again, they really use Gen AI and they were using this to really, again, create scripts to be able to really imitate and use known personas. And then they'll do research to understand your behaviors in the net to be able to really, again, craft the messaging that is going to resonate with you based on your interests, your hobbies, and your desires. And so this really is an example of how they're kind of leveraging this technology to create that opportunity, to create that deep relationship and pull the funds.
So these scammers have really come a long way, as you were just describing, in perfecting their craft and being better at what they do. How successful are they? How should we think about the impact of the scams that they run?
Yeah, when you look at some of these numbers, it's quite alarming. 30% of U.S. households have lost money in the last 5 years. That's roughly 77 million victims. And then, since these are really personal, 55% of the people that fall victim say that their mental health has been impacted. And then you can look at the financial impact of it. The median loss of a scam is $545 in the U.S. When you kind of think about that and you kind of overlay this amount over the fact that 65% of U.S. households live paycheck by paycheck, and roughly a third have less than $1,000 in savings. Imagine that. That is really something that can be really crippling for a household, for a person. Looking at it globally, the projected scam losses for RTPs alone is going to be $7.6 billion by 2028. Financial institutions get concerned as well. And many times the consumer feels like the financial institution has something to be responsible for. 54% of U.S. victims really doubt if they want to continue to do business with that financial institution. And in fact, 30% actually move away from that financial institution. So, again, the loss of trust is really a big impact that these financial institutions are really worried about. And, again, this adoption, it can impact the adoption of A2A payments if, there is that fear within the industry.
Well, Hector, thank you for these insights. And it's helpful background as we move into our next topic, which is Visa's solutions for these complex threats. And so for that discussion, I'd like to welcome Jaspal Manik, who's the Chief Revenue Officer at Featurespace, which is a Visa solution. Jaspal joins us from the famed halls of Cambridge University's Christ College in the UK, where Featurespace was founded and is headquartered. So Hector and Jaspal, I'll turn it over to you to share how Visa is helping financial institutions and RTP operators to combat these scams.
Hey, thank you, David. And Hector, nice to see you again. Hopefully you're enjoying my lovely background.
Great to see you as well, Jaspal. Impressive setting. Very, very academic. It's really exciting to bring together the best scam fighting capabilities from Visa and Featurespace to form our Visa A2A protection solution. But before we start and dive into it, why don't we talk about what are the client needs that helped us shape our strategy?
Yeah, happy to, Hector. First of all, we need to meet our clients where they are. Every client is going through a different journey, so we should be there to help no matter where they are. And as part of that, adoption has varied across different markets. Some markets are much more advanced, and actually some markets are just getting started, so it's really important for us to go and help them. And then lastly, as clients scale into this space, we need to make sure that we're there to support them, to give them the level of sophistication that they actually need to be successful.
That's right, Jaspal. We need to support our clients with their current and future needs, wherever they are in their journey. Our clients also need to have risk coverage in every stage of the A2A payment lifecycle so they can, one, detect and prevent in real time before the money leaves the customer account. Two, mitigate losses quickly so they can track stolen funds and know what to take the next step. What is the next step to take? And then third, accelerate recovery and meet their compliance obligations with easy processes and reporting. Acting fast is absolutely critical for clients also to be able to avoid losing any customers that might have been impacted by fraud, and at the end, mitigate any losses. Lastly, clients want all it to be very easy for them. One platform, one UI, and they want to be able to connect to us once and benefit continuously. With this in mind, Justpal, let's share how our Visa A2A protection solutions can meet their customer needs.
Hey, Hector, that sounds really good. And in fact, let me touch on 3 really quick points that bring this to life. First of all, we give our clients a day one model that helps them protect themselves on their A2A risk journey. Why that's important is because they're able to ingest it into their own existing ecosystem. So that intelligence gets there very, very quickly for them. And again, we manage the models for them while they manage their own fraud platforms. In terms of curating the model, the second point is pretty important. We use very little historical data to do that, and that's because of the millions of transactions and payments that we've seen at a network level, but also working with clients individually. What that's given us is the ability to implement it really quickly as well. In fact, our lead times to do it are pretty impressive at the moment. Our models are pre-trained based on signals that we've seen from across the network as well as from our clients. And why that's important is because it allows us to see the good behavior from the bad behavior. And that's one of our strengths, is our ability to look at good behavior and pick out the bad behavior pretty quickly. And look, the scams have very subtle shifts in their patterns, and that's why we look at key signals from first-time payee, unusual urgency of making a payment, through to atypical amounts that we see on a regular basis that pop up. And then obviously off-pattern timing, when people are pushing a payment at a time which looks irregular as well. What we are able to do is to flag that information for what looks bad so that they can concentrate on the good stuff that's going through, which is important for consumers as well.
That's key, Justpal. We can help our clients spot scams when it matters the most, before the payment leaves the customer account, so they can prevent the losses entirely.
Exactly, Hector. And actually, this is the stuff that really gets me excited. When you see a customer who starts that journey with a day one model and then over time needs that extra layer of protection, which is why we developed them a custom model based on their portfolio, based on their dynamics of their systems, but also on the fraud that they're encountering in their ecosystem. And that's also adapted through our enhanced adaptive behavioral analytics, which adapt over time as the fraud changes, but also more importantly, as consumer behavior changes as well.
It's fantastic that financial institutions can use their custom models to improve performance, and they can really get greater value by using their own personal information into the solution. In select markets, we have the added benefit of providing network-level visibility. That consortium model benefits from the data that we receive from participant financial institutions. And after deployment, enhancing that with further intelligence from our global network, VisaNet. These are transactions that come from over 316 billion transactions a year over 200 countries. That is a vast network view of global intelligence that can really help us identify patterns quickly and stop fraud. And again, if there is no consortium in a specific market, we have a single FI model that can be rapidly deployed and has privacy protection to help customers stop fraud quick. And as the consortium grows, we can simply benefit from that broader intelligence and give that intelligence to the customer.
Look, Hector, you're absolutely spot on, in fact. And one of the things that I get really excited about what Visa does for our clients is it gives them the chance to have the right model for their right set of needs. Every client is very different. Their risk profile is different and their client needs are very different. But as part of that, it gives their teams the ability to prevent, detect, and manage fraud all through one platform on one UI. And that makes it super simple for them to manage that. And we can start off with some very basic rules all the way through to some of our complex, more powerful rules through our proprietary language, AMDL, which a number of clients really love using. But we do that by 24/7 on inbound and outbound, and that's important because we've got to look at both sides of the ecosystem. The other thing that we're doing that we're really excited about that's coming very shortly is graphic network visualization. That gives us the ability to show the trace of funds across the network. Really powerful stuff. It shows you the mule rings all the way through to where decisions are getting made so that our clients can make those decisions very, very quickly. And that's important because fraud is real time and we need to act quick and we need to give our clients the tools to do it quickly. And then that supports them on the back end from a recovery perspective all the way through to following SLAs that they may have with their internal stakeholders and ensuring they've got a very clean audit trail of where those funds have gone and where they're going to.
It's such a robust set of capabilities, Just Paul. Clients get control, flexibility, and visibility to manage across the A2A payment lifecycle in alignment with their risk strategies and their risk appetite. Importantly, a single Visa-hosted API will soon be enabled clients to connect once and benefit continuously as their needs evolve. Beyond the technology, clients can benefit from our risk experts. Via our Visa Managed Services experts, we can provide tailored support to our clients regardless of the size of the organization. And it can be from initial consultation, user training, to performance management and ongoing consultation.
Yeah, look, I think we've really covered the key highlights of our Visa A2A protection solution, Hector.
Thanks for joining me, Just Paul.
It was my pleasure, Hector. And actually, we really look forward to helping FIs and RTP operators around the globe stay ahead of scams.
Thank you for the update, Hector and Just Paul. With scams posing a serious threat to consumers and the broader payments ecosystem, it's key that our Visa A2A protection solution is engineered to scale and to continuously improve.
Absolutely. Our Visa A2A solution is available now in most markets globally. I encourage anyone that is interested to reach out to their account executive or contact us online for a free consultation. Thank you again for having me today, David.
It's been a real pleasure, Hector. Thank you. As new ways to pay, such as A2A payments, accelerate, technology must outpace fraud. Visa has invested heavily in AI-powered risk solutions to enable and protect seamless payment experiences. Our AI and machine learning models help clients stay ahead of AI-powered fraud and scams. Combining the best Visa and Featurespace capabilities delivers exceptional innovation and expertise that make payments secure and seamless across all rails, endpoints, and stages of the payment lifecycle. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Visa Spotlight. Be sure to visit www.visa.com/spotlight for updates to our innovation series and for access to on-demand episodes featuring Visa leaders and industry experts.